I'm doing it.
You did it. So I took it upon myself to mass message all
I
of
see
the
that.
groups. And Billy Jenkins is a Benedict Arnold traitor because he said that we're 3 minutes late and we lost a subscriber.
Oh no.
Oh no.
We know Billy Jenkins didn't, but
I know.
if it was a complete stranger, I'd like sorry.
Their loss.
My apologies for being late to a free podcast. The nerve.
At least it wasn't me for once.
For the record, I was here before Phil.
He was. And he's like, oh man, I may have to restart my modem. I was like, just do it now. There's 40 seconds.
Knowing damn well that modem takes like 5 minutes to come back.
No, we're down to
no show last week.
7
now
watchers. Oh man,
big whoop.
What are you drinking? What is that can?
Prime fruit punch.
Is it just fruit punch?
Oh no, it's fruit punch with a bunch of caffeine and
taurine and
electrolytes, 0 sugar, 300 milligrams of electrolytes to be exact.
Oh my god!
And it's vegan. Not that matters. I'm not vegan.
Wow. All right. Well, kicking it off. Prime
0 sugars. I don't know. They're good. I like them. It's got coconut water in it.
That's good. Well, it must be healthy if it's got coconut water.
And it's vegan. It can't be bad for you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Vegans are like the healthiest people I've ever seen.
Yeah, I know. They're all like fit and muscular.
Yeah. The absolute pinnacle of health.
The human perfection.
The poster child.
Yes. The textbook specimen of Homo sapiens.
200% your B12 DV. You're wrong. It is actually 150%. So eat that, Billy Jenkins.
Yeah, Billy Jenkins. Fuck you.
You my fucking doctor.
Oh man.
It's 150% B12, another 150% B6. So do that math.
Billy Jenkins would be the one to have like a secret PhD that he just doesn't tell anyone about until it's absolutely necessary online.
15% of my magnesium for the day and 4% of my calcium, so I don't even have to drink milk.
What has the show become?
Eat shit, Jenkins.
Oh my god. Well, Snakes and Stogies episode 176.
Oh yeah.
Brought to you in part and in total by BlackBoxCages.com. If you need a rack.
Yes, finish that because I got to look at this trip you just said. It's got weird chemicals in it, so now I got to investigate.
If you need a rack, if you need an enclosure, if you need some PVC, reptile, and amphibian goodness in your life, go to BlackBoxCages.com. We all own their products. We all stand by their products. In the process of doing a 3-foot slider Gila monster enclosure right now that I'm painstakingly, meticulously changing over and over again because I'm a perfectionist in that regard. But yes, blackboxcages.com. Check it out. If you want something tailor-made, they will do it to a certain extent. Just talk to them. Hit them up. One of the few companies where you can actually message them and they will actually respond
within a reasonable time frame.
And the best shipping of any enclosure in North America. I can say that with confidence.
They've been through the trials and tribulations of how the fine folks at FedEx and UPS handle packages, and so they've tweaked their shipping accordingly so that it's FedEx man proof, because sometimes we've all seen boxes and it's like, how did that get like that?
Yeah.
Because it was like someone took their rack and threw it into the like a tiger enclosure and let them just go to town on it. So
yeah, as someone who has purchased racks online and had them show up looking like they got run over by a forklift, because they probably did, and they were broken from said forklift, it was not blackboxcages.com.
It wasn't.
Another
thing we don't have to worry about shipping on is shirts. You can get this one that I'm wearing, one like the one Phil is wearing there. FullViewsApparel.com. Use the code THN at checkout, just for THN listeners and people and viewers like you. Subbok hat is not available yet. I'm gonna place a hat order for Okati hats and Subbok hats and some other stuff as soon as work slows down a little bit, which may never happen at this rate. I don't know. Use code THN at checkout, 10%, 15% actually for you, all the fine people that listen and watch us. And Trippy said there's an app called Yucca. You scan the barcode and it tells you what kind of wild shit is in anything. Ignorance is bliss on that one. So
yeah, I'll concur.
It's got electrolytes. It's got coconut water. As concerned, it might as well be regular water, just caffeinated. I feel hydrated. Certainly better than the Arnold Palmer there that Phil has.
How did you know?
Water.
How did you know?
Because I recognize that. I worked at Walgreens forever, man. We sold those things like crazy.
I love me some.
It's literally like if you took water and you just put a bunch of pennies in it and you drank it. That's what that tastes like.
What? No, it's delicious. You're out of your mind.
It's not.
I like to get through like half of it and then I water it down a little bit and throw some ice in the bottle. Yeah. What? Yeah.
Ooh, I do have something to talk about.
We have other sponsors.
Speaking of ice, we do. I'm going to get to that in a second. But Puget Sound Pythons, check them out. Facebook, Instagram. Give them a follow on Facebook, Instagram, Morph Market. My brain's all over the place right now. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm trying to read while I'm talking.
They got a new baby blue tail monitor. Watch the shenanigans, the interactions.
They named it Toothless.
Oh, brilliant.
They actually didn't. I tried to convince them to. I was like, name it something original.
Oh, that's super cute. They should have.
Or Nagiri or Nagini or whatever. It was like pretty much something original. Be clever. Something. Be something that stands out.
Well, regardless of their name decision making, check them out. Good people, good animals.
Dude, awesome, did you see the wedding video?
No, not yet.
It looked. I don't know how much they paid Peter Jackson to film that shit.
Yeah, that good, huh?
Holy crap! It's on. I think Jeff's Instagram. You should go watch it.
All right. I'll go watch it. I'll watch it.
It was insane. I was like, I don't usually like get emotional about weddings and stuff, but I was watching it like, oh my god, like is that a tear I feel? Is it a tear welling up? Nagiri, Nagini, Ka, all original names they could have gone with because no one names any of their animals that.
I like Vic Lorana says Joanna.
Yeah, there you go.
I like that. That's good, Vic. Oh, and Vic, I was just taking pictures of your milk snakes today, so we'll throw them up a little bit.
What about us not so fine people? Do we get the discount? You do get the discount. If you're listening to this and you're on fullvisapparel.com and you buy yourself some stuff, use that code. It is as far as I know, you can buy it in Europe now. Like I set it up to where people can buy in the UK and Germany and like all the major countries, Mexico included, Australia. The problem is I don't know if I did it right. So I have yet to get an international order, which I don't expect to get a lot of. Honestly, I set it up there for the two people that might actually buy something. So it's there. Give it a shot. I did have someone message me and they're like, would you rather me have you shipped to Canada or Ireland? And I was like, either is fine. Like as far as I know, it's going to be the same process. So we'll see. I don't know, but because there's this whole thing with like duties, like people have to pay duties on things that come in. And there's like the whole VAT thing, which is something that the EU does, but I thought that I had to do something about that, but it's only if you're in the EU does the VAT thing matter.
Yep. And
it's very confusing. It should not be this
I buy stuff from Germany all the time, and it's crazy how the shipping is like $10 US. And I mean, we're talking small packages, and it still gets here in like 2 weeks. It's crazy. I mean, it's German efficiency, but you know what I mean? It's not as difficult as people think. So if you are international, try it. Smitty will make it work.
I will. I don't know how long it will take to get to you, but it is available in pretty much all major countries, large countries made. I don't know what the terminology is. What else? Damn it, I'm struggling. What are you smoking? What are you smoking tonight?
Well, before I smoke,
the 300 milligrams of electrolytes and caffeine are coursing through my brain.
Right, because you're drinking canned poison. By the way,
I already have. It's gone.
Metazotics in the house. What it do, baby?
Hey.
So, because you're drinking poison, which is delicious, you really should find a better, more natural, delicious form of caffeinated beverage.
You think I should switch to Monster?
No, I think you should go to Cold-Blooded Caffeine.
Oh, that's right.
And check out their fine selection of coffee products from around the world.
Don't just go to coldbloodedcaffeine.com. I mean, do that if you think about this at some other point. If not, just there's a link down below. And if you go to that link and you happen to grab something, gives me and Phil a little bottle of walking around money, not a ton.
Pays for a coffee.
Philly needs a new pair of shoes.
Get those sweet, sweet beans.
There you go. He needs a new pair of Yeezys. Help him out. So just record an episode of CCR and wanted to pop over and say you guys are awesome. Strong arm thing. Listening for my drive home. Heart.
Thanks, Clint.
What a guy.
What a guy.
That guy.
That's awesome. That guy. We love that guy. We love CCR. Colubrid Radio. Check it out on the NPR network. But while you're checking out Colubrid Radio on Morelia Python Radio Network,
which is the best podcast in herpetic culture right now.
It really is. I mean, let's just be real here.
I would honestly prefer if you all just dropped everything you were doing and went and listened to that
after our show. But while you're doing that, you should be sipping on a delicious, warm, smooth,
ice,
elegant beverage, even if it's on ice, from Cold-Blooded Caffeine.
God made coffee for it to be poured cold.
Anyway, Cold-Blooded Caffeine, check them out.
Snakes and Stogies brought to you by White Monsters and Camel Lights.
So true.
Not wired.
True.
My God, I made some honey chicken for dinner that was off the chain.
Oh, yeah? I had Chinese food. So tonight I'm smoking an old favorite. I couldn't make a decision. I don't know if people have this problem often, if maybe I'm just a weirdo who has too many cigars in my humidor, but I could not make a decision as to what to smoke tonight. And I thought to myself, when's the last time I had what I consider Old Faithful? And I couldn't remember. So tonight we have Liga Privada Numero Nuevo.
Oh, yeah, those number 7s.
What about you?
Warped Bits of Havana Selección de Capital.
Oh, nice box press.
This is one of the newer releases, I believe, from Warped. It is a Mexican San Andreas wrapper over Nicaraguan binders and filas. Surprisingly, I guess it's not light for a San Andreas wrapper, but it's definitely not as dark as like a Neanderthal. But Kyle Gillis, who owns and runs Warped, is a very, very good blender. He makes some absolutely fantastic cigars. In fact, my round 2, pending we get to that point, is this other one that Warped released not that long ago that I have smoked before, but I don't remember the name of. It's a good little Maduro. But yeah. Football. Jets fans out there, sorry, always next year. I don't know. I don't pay attention to pro ball. I barely pay attention to college ball. My college team is Carolina, and we're horrible. We have been for about 10 years now. And we're very consistent in not being at both halves of the same game. We may show up to the first half. We may show up to the second half. But we sure as hell ain't going to be at both. So, Just gives me more opportunity to talk smack about Clemson. I have nothing to lose at this point. Like, people are like, yeah, you like Carolina, huh? It's like, yeah, I know, we're horrible. Big whoop. It's to be expected.
Yeah, sports.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So the thing I wanted to talk about, speaking of ice, real quick. You know the pump misters?
Yeah.
You ever have those get gross?
Yeah.
Like in the bottom?
Yeah, but
how have you cleaned those in the past?
to be brutally honest, the first time I saw it, I was like, oh my God, what have I done? I haven't been maintaining my sprayer. And I attempted to pour in straight chlorhexidine, and then I used a bottle brush and it just didn't work. And I threw it away. And now I try to, if I have the small Exoterra one that's only like 500 milliliters, I will dump it out after my maintenance and just leave it upside down on a paper towel. If it's the big giant canister one, I leave it sealed, and then I'll just do really, really hot water and Dawn and shake it up and then dump it out. And I've yet to see any funk. So I don't know if that's just from me maintaining it that way, but I can't think of a way to properly clean the inside of it.
I got one.
Oh, well, let's hear it, baby.
Okay. This blew my mind because mine disappeared for a period of time. I don't know where it went, but I found it, and the bottom was like green, like algae or something had set up shop.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I put some Zep in there and, swirled it around a good bit and shook it up and emptied that out, and that didn't do anything. And so then I brought it into the kitchen. Katie was standing. I was like, what do we got that I can get this out with? She was like, oh, she's like, nothing. She's like, let me see it. She took it. She put ice cubes in it. And then I guess she put some salt in it. And you take it and you shake it around with the salt and ice.
Really?
Like new. She said that's how they used to like clean carafes when she worked in food and bev.
Really?
And like my mind was blown because it was perfect. All of it was
wild.
gone. Like the ice turn was green.
Yeah.
Dude, some like I put in some Dawn, which I also shook that up and tried to like work it, and it didn't really do much. But that ice with some salt in it, dude, it was, because mine's one of the, like, I don't know how big exactly they are, like 2-liter bottles.
Yeah.
One of the handheld ones, not the backpacks, but
yeah, you like the Exoterra one with the black top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But bigger. It's a bigger one. It got it from like Home Depot or Lowe's. So, for future reference, that worked like $1 million.
Excellent.
Like I was amazed.
Yeah, Jeff Fredericks is in the
that
group
trick
chat.
Also works for a drop of dish soap for pasta sauce stained containers. Oh yeah.
He's saying Blue Dawn is the lifesaver, and I've always used Blue Dawn. That's like my weapon of choice in that regard.
If it's safe for the ducks, it's safe for the animals.
Yeah, I know, right, dude? And that commercial, that Dawn commercial, pisses me off so much, because you look at that commercial and like, oh, they saved this little baby duck. Bullshit. Those cameras are $1 million red cameras, and they're all this big money production for these freaking commercials. They took some poor defenseless little duck and lathered crap all over it just to make the commercial, because you know what is clean? The duck's head. The duck's head is clean because that's a captive duck that was not. It's a sham, and I'm angry, but I still buy their product because they make amazing stuff.
You're wrong. I don't believe you. Tyson Dallas said, put a few pre-1982 pennies in the sprayer. Copper kills bacteria. Yeah, I've done that with water bowls and stuff a lot. He said, builds up a lot of carbon pyrite in my water bowls. But yes, the pre-1982 pennies work really well. I actually put copper like couplings in my in the rodent reservoirs in the big 5-gallon buckets to help sort of kill stuff, make it a
also
little less gross.
I've also seen people take a really long bottle brush and put it inside of a power drill, like in the chuck of a power drill, and like up and down. So, but again, that's I would only do that if I had like one of the big like 5-gallon sprayers or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know, man. It worked like $1 million. My sprayer was like new. I needed it because I had so one of the female chondros had a rough shed, and then I thought that maybe she was gravid. And so I was like, let me get some of the stuck shed off her. And so I was like, couldn't find my mister, and finally found it. And then I was like, oh, wait, it's green in the bottom. So then I fixed that. And then I went and sprayed her.
Funky.
And she was pregnant, but it wasn't with eggs. Because as soon as I started misting her, she just stopped being pregnant. It was bad. I was like amazed. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
That's like literally how full she was.
Size.
I thought she might have been gravid. That's how fat she was. But you spray chondros and it's just a trigger where they just go. If I have a snake that hasn't gone in a while and I'm like, it's time, missed them. Usually, it's not usually immediate like that, but you do it before lights out. By morning, there's usually something there. So.
Yeah. I do the same thing with Bittis, man. My big female gaboon, man. She just had a horrible shed, and it like she got some of it off, but it wasn't enough. Like you could tell it wasn't. She didn't have enough hydration, or maybe the oils in her skin wasn't there enough to make the shed detach properly. And I misted her down, but again, we're talking about a 5-foot gaboon that's as thick, if not thicker, than an adult blood python. So I'm not exactly going to start like rubbing oil on her body. You know what I mean? It's just not going to happen.
Oh, come on.
Yeah. So I got a big Sterilite tub and I filled it with 600 or probably like 1,000 milliliters of water, just normal tap water. And I threw her ass in there and I left her there for almost 4 hours. And when I came back, dude, it was all off. She took a nice big crap in there. And we forget how simple something like that can be.
Do they like lose it when you put them in water?
It depends on the animal.
They have a moment and like freak out where they're like, oh my God.
Well, like I don't like putting venomous in water unless I need to, like I really, really need to, or I mean, like there are guys online that once a week, twice a week, put their venomous snake, regardless of species or what it is, into a tub of just water. Mm-hmm. That's how you die. Because the minute that snake hits that water, it freaks and flies out. Unless you have an animal that's been conditioned to do it. So like there's a guy that I follow online and he doesn't have the best of practices in my opinion, but he's got a mamba that he's raised since it was a baby, and when it was a baby, he'd put it in water and it would fly out. But now it's 7 foot and it doesn't care. It knows that it's going to get a nice swim. It's going to get a drink and he's going to take it back out and have a clean cage. So I feel like a lot of conditioning comes down to that. And I feel like that's how my gaboon is. Like she knows like nothing's going to happen. She's not floating. It's not deep enough for her to float. So if she did lose strength and like succumb to the water, so to speak, she's not going to. Right. Yeah, she's not gonna drown or anything. The whole point of it is just to make massive amounts of humidity, and if she wants to drink, she can. So,
because with chondros, I've noticed doesn't matter which animal it is, all of them act the same. They're like a cat when you're trying to put a cat in a bath.
Oh yeah,
like the chondros, you put them in that, and like immediately, like they just hold onto the hook even harder. They try and climb up it. Like getting them into a soaking bin is actually really difficult.
Yeah,
if you pick them up to try and put them in there, they just cling onto you, and then when you try to pull them off, they just end up wrapping you some more. And it's a whole thing. But
now I will say for something like that and venomous too, I prefer rain chambers because a rain chamber, and I can discuss that for those of you who are unaware of what it is. Basically, you have a container that I prefer it clear, just so I can see what's going on, especially venomous. And the container has a lid that seals, but you have air holes in the top and you have air holes at the bottom. and you have more air holes on the bottom than you do on the top. And sometimes the ones on the top, you can make them bigger if you want, just to kind of get more water flow. But you basically take your animal, put it in the container, and put it under the faucet. Make sure the water doesn't get too hot, doesn't get too cold. And it's going to rain in that chamber and then drain out the bottom. And that's why you have more holes in the bottom than you do on the top. Otherwise, the thing would fill up and your snake or lizard would drown, which is no bueno. So I prefer doing rain chambers with venomous, because when they go in the container, they're like, okay, I'm just in a container. And then when I turn the rain on, then they're like, oh my God, it's raining. What do I do? But they get the hydration that they need. So
yeah,
and the chondros.
The chondros, yeah, I do that every now and then. So I don't do it exactly like that. What I'll typically do if I feel like I need to, which I know there's guys like David Brahms does rain chambers fairly regularly, or at least he did at one point. I don't know if he still does. But what I'll do is I'll take an empty tub, or shoebox, something of the appropriate size, and I'll just put the perch with the snake on it. And then I'll sit there with the hand mister, and I'll put the little lock on, and I'll just hold it there over them, and I'll watch them drink. And then when they're done, then I'll pull it and I'll put them back and move on to the next. So ideally, like, what would be really nice is to have something like one of the backpack misters that has the hose, and finding a way to attach that like in the center of the lid, but have it so that the spray is, it's broad, it's not narrow, and then be able to sort of just pump it and let it go. And then I can do other stuff while it's doing that. And I guess another option before that would be to just put them in a tub, like in your shower, and set the water temperature to a nice something room tepid, whatever, and let it do its thing that way. I'm just kind of weird about my water quality.
No, I get that.
It's not bad, but it's definitely like it's not my favorite. There's a reason I filter pretty much everything. That goes into the water bowls here. So
yeah, and I feel like I like the rain chamber because most of my stuff I can't do what you just described, and I'm not too concerned with the tap water where I am, so I don't worry about it too much. I mean, there is some chloramine in it, maybe some fluoride, but nothing that's really going to affect them. I mean, it may leave some kind of calcium residue or something on water bowls on occasion, but as long as I'm maintaining the bowls, it's irrelevant. But somebody, I think it was Jeff, had mentioned about too hot, too cold. Obviously, the animal's going to freak out. Most people don't realize this, but like 80 degrees, which all of our animals are at 80 degrees, 80-degree water actually feels cold to the touch. So if you like have a digital thermometer or whatever, and you're running your tap water, you could see what's cold and what's not. Even though it feels cold, it's really not.
Well, what's our body temperature average? 93 and change or something?
No, 97, right? 97.8, right?
But basically, if you're feeling water and it's hot, that means it's warmer than that 97 and change.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's gonna feel cooler than that,
but yeah, I can't. I don't trust my animals to like leave them in the shower or like leave them in the tub. Venomous or not, right?
Yeah, and so I mean, even if it was like in the shower, I wouldn't leave them. It'd obviously be supervised, but
yeah, 98.6. There we go. I was close.
Same thing.
But
they work. The chondros, it's weird too, because I have some chondros where it's like if I rain chamber them, they'll drink like crazy, and then I've got some where it's like they just tuck their head and they're like, "Dude, come on, like, leave me alone. Let me go back to sleep."
Well, it's funny we're talking about this because, excuse me, this week I'm going to water the Cerastes because the last time they got water was June. And the time before that was, I think November or September. So,
wow.
Yeah. So, no, maybe it was Christmas time. I don't remember. It's been a while. So I know they haven't had water since June. We did the move, and now the room is hotter than it was back in June. So I'm going to do them. But what I normally do is I take them out and I put them into a larger tub that's blank empty with a small water bowl. and I just let them drink as much as they want.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just keep refilling that little water bowl. And then finally, when they stop, I'll give it like 20, 30 minutes to just chill and just get that water inside them. Because the minute they're done drinking, if you scoop them up, they're going to spit up all that water. Now they're losing gut flora. And at the same time, I'm sure it doesn't feel good the same way that it doesn't feel good for us to throw up. So it does take me a long time to do all the Cerastes. I mean, shit, there's 6 or 7 at my house. But it gives them that nice big drink that they only get once every 4, 5, 6 months, whatever I feel like doing.
Yeah, I'm really curious, and maybe there's a paper on it that I can hunt down, but I'm really, really curious how those animals, how much more effective they are as far as hydration from food compared to other animals. Like, how does their body get more from less or the same amount as something that an animal in more a tropical or more humid environment that does see more rainfall?
Yeah.
You know, like, what is it that Cerastes and other desert species like that rarely see rain? Like, how has their body adapted to get more hydration out of things like that? And, you know, air humidity and, you know, I know the night drops and the dew point and things like that are there, but I'm really curious if there's some sort of mechanism there with the, like, Cerastes in particular,
Sure,
where like they somehow are able to metabolize more water from meals than other stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I totally think that you're right on the ball, and I'm sure that someone should, if they haven't, hopefully they have done a study on this. But when you look at the feces of a grassland species or a jungle species or tropical species, and it is extremely wet, moist, whatever you want to call it, and then you look at something like the Cerastes, it almost looks like beef jerky with like a slight oily sheen to it. And that's just because they've used everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I also feel like I am not doing what I should for them, because in the wild, they probably are drinking maybe every day for a few weeks out of the year, depending on dew point. You know what I mean? They're drinking way more in the wild than they are in my captive care. The problem is for me to keep them healthy and not oversaturate them with respiratory issues, or scale rot, or skin issues. I have to keep them super duper dry. For a while, I was basically taking them out and soaking them like I did with the gaboon. You know, put like an inch of water in there, let them swim around. Believe it or not, Cerastes can float and swim. It's crazy. A snake that will never see large standing water in its entire life in the desert in the Sahara will float and swim. It's just instinctual. But what happens is water gets in between the pectoral scales, and it gets on and in between the nooks and crannies of those keeled scales. And then when I put them in the sand, it clumps and it sticks to them, and it builds humidity pockets. And I've actually seen like a fungal rash on a lot of the bellies, excuse me, a lot of belly scales from that. So I was like, I can't do that anymore. You know, put a little Lotrimin on it, makes everything go away. But so that's why now I put them in a dry tub with just a water bowl. And if they spill a little, they spill a little, but I'm not floating them or soaking them like I would other species.
Yeah. I don't know. What are so like urates in those? Do you see the same or less in those compared to other species?
Yeah, I think it looks the same.
About the same?
Yeah. There's way less there's more fur, like white mouse fur, than you would expect from other animals. But there's also less feces in general. So I feel like
that doesn't surprise me. That I would expect.
Yeah, they're just getting rid of the waste. Yeah.
Like they're pulling everything they can out of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's surely someone's looked into that. Because there's plenty of other animal species, not even like outside of herps, that have to have something similar to where they're just able to pull water from every possible thing they can.
Yeah, and Jeff Frederick brings up something that somebody was just talking about. He says his Baird's rat snake will regurgitate the food if it's too wet, and had access to water recently. And we were talking about that with subox too.
Yeah.
A couple of our friends have had issues where if they don't dry the prey item off before giving it to the bear eye or the suboc, then they'll get, chronic regurg or what have you.
Well, was it subox or was it centicolus that if they
were talking about Bajas.
If they drink too much, that causes them to regurg.
Really?
I can't remember what it was. It was one of those two, I'm fairly certain, to where
So,
that's why they're only offered water. Maybe it was rosy boas. It might have been rosies.
I don't
but
know.
Basically, same thing as you would with Bajas or subox. Like, you just give them a much smaller than normal water bowl so that, like, they still have access to it, but they don't have a ton.
That's literally what I do.
And I think it was a issue where if something drank, if you gave them a bunch of water and they drank a bunch at once, they regurg. Like,
yeah, Jeff says it was centicolus.
Rosies too. Okay, both. Yeah, so that might have been a CCR episode. Yeah, because I've heard that before. The wet rodent thing with my bears, I've never had an issue there. I also I try to dry mine off at least a little bit before I feed them because I don't like to have the shavings and stuff stick to it because they're bound and determined to grab it and drag it through the bedding.
Of course.
On their way to the back of the tub. And so, of course, it just becomes like a magnet. And I don't pick them up while it's coiled and peel it all off.
My Mexican Black Kings do that. And this is going to sound bad and people are going to yell at me for this. I kind of don't hesitate with aspen, with them eating like the aspen that's stuck to the fur. Because, I mean, dude, they're going to get a mouthful. But with like the Cerastes or with the Lepidus, and it's sand, it's like real sand. Yeah, man. Because I feel like if a king snake ate some aspen, we're talking about very fine, minute shavings. Yeah, it may give them some kind of irritation. I'm sure it could have some kind of ulcer or something, but they're gonna probably digest most, if not all of it, in my opinion. While it's sand, now you're just talking about straight impaction.
Yeah. I don't know though, because I would think that with some species like that are in a more sandy environment, not straight sand, Cerastes would kind of be the exception there. But stuff like that, like desert stuff that is in a more dusty, more sandy area, I would expect to have adapted at least a little bit to ingesting that and dealing with it better than
you
couldn't keep on sand
for sure. And we're not talking about. I'll give you a scenario. Lepidus, rock rattlesnake, bites a rodent in the wild, and the rodent has moisture on its mouth and has a mouthful of sand, right? Or maybe it bleeds and a lot of the sand sticks to the blood, the coagulated blood, and it consumes it. That's no problem. Same thing with like a knobtail gecko or even a leopard gecko. Oh, you can't put it on sand because it's going to get impacted. These are desert creatures, man. Like, granted, if you're feeding it a mouthful of sand every time, that's different. Right. So the rattlesnake that tags a rat, has some sand on the rat and eats it, is very different than me having a soaking wet, frozen thawed rodent and basically, panko bread crust breading it in sand. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Jeff's also said bears will do it with two larger prey items also. Could have been a combination with the wet mice. Yeah, I've definitely noticed with bears that when you're feeding them, I'm over the years I've learned to stick to on the smaller side. It's not like corns where you can kind of push them a little bit and you can, give them that little extra 10%, probably more than they should have, but they can handle it. Bears don't take well to that. Like I prefer to go smaller for bears, even if they're adults. Because I've noticed that it does not take much to get bears to regurg, especially if it's too big of a meal. And then it's, I've talked about it a bunch of times on this show and other shows. It's then a sort of a very slow and steady return to a normal size prey item, because if you try and feed them the same size over and over again after that, they just seem to regurg and just go downhill from there, and eventually they're just going to roll. So
yeah. So on the same note, and dude, it always happens to your favorite specimen or your favorite one of the species. So I have this dusky that I've had for years, and the thing's gonna be a killer breeder. It's got like another year before I really want to pair it. And Palm Beach locality, just a screamer specimen. It got bad shed after the move, which is to be expected. It's a lot drier. So I gave it more moisture. I sprayed a little more. Well, it got too wet. And now it's got this stuck shed. It's in wetness. It just looked bad, man. It looked like a wet dog. I felt bad for her. So I take her out and I put her on paper towels and give her a nice rat pup and say, here you go. Nice fresh dry enclosure. Well, she eats it. Everything's fine. So a week later, the shed is still there. It still looks crappy. So I was already soaking the gaboon. So I said, all right, let me soak the pygmy too. She regurged the almost completely digested rat pup because she had drank so much water.
Yeah.
And I guess it's just bad course correction. So I just checked her. She's doing all right. But now I got to wait a little while. And now it's the scary time of, is she going to rebound from this incident? So fingers crossed, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's weird, man, because, I mean, even if you have a water bowl in there, there's some snakes that just, for whatever reason, can't seem to find it, because that was an issue I had with the rhinos, the baby rhinos. That first week, as they were all sort of coming into their first sheds and having them, there was a couple I noticed looked really dry, like they looked crispy, like that skin was just, it was gross. And so I'd put them in the water bowl, and there was two of them, one in particular for sure, that they were just drinking a ton of water, and it was like they never found the water bowl, which doesn't make sense because we're talking about small tubs that are 96 ounce. Like, they're not huge, they're fairly shallow, and they've got like the 8-ounce deli cups in there that take up a solid quarter of that tub space, if not more. And it's like, you couldn't find that. So it got to the point, I talked to Terry Burwell, because I messaged him and was like, do you keep yours on any, like, what am I doing wrong? Basically, like, should I keep them on damp paper towel? Because I don't want to keep them damp. Should I keep them on damp spag? And he basically told me he keeps his on damp spag, and he keeps them all together until they have their first sheds, and then he separates them. So what I'm gonna do, or what I learned this time, is definitely keep them on something, keep humidity high when they're babies like that in that first week, probably longer than that, I would think.
And this is the silver coat. This is still their first shed.
Yes.
Okay.
I didn't have humid hides in there with them. I just had the bigger water bowls, and they had a little cardboard tube, whatever. So after having that conversation with Terry, I got more of the deli cups, and it's the ones with the green lids from Dollar Tree that come in like a 5-pack. I love them to death. They're great. Went ahead and made humid hides with some spag. I put all the babies in them and closed the lid, like they had the hole so they could come out if they wanted to. And that's what they have as a hide now, instead of like a hide. They can still go under the paper towel, because I use multiple layers of paper towel. But yeah, like, there was a couple that had fine sheds. There was 2 or so that needed some assistance. Like, they got some of it off, and I had to help them get the rest of it off. But they're all shedded now. So I have sheds. I got to send those off to get sexed.
Cool.
Did you give the Rhino Neos a perch above the water bowl? I have not. And that's pretty much because these perches I have that are made for like 6 quarts would not fit in these tubs. But what I should do is get some fake plant, like some aquarium plant or something to put in there. They're not seeming to have any issues finding the water bowl now, because there's a couple of them that I'll find in and out of the water bowl as much as the adults, which the adults I don't really see in the water bowl a whole lot anymore. When I was feeding them heavier, I noticed that they definitely spent more time in there. After talking to Rob, he thinks that it's a comfort thing for them. Like, if you feed them bigger meals, they sit in water, displace that weight, and so it's not as uncomfortable on them to be perched with that in there, which I guess makes sense. But I also have gotten to the point where I don't really even feed my adults anything furred anymore. They all get rat pups or rat pinks.
Yeah,
like
smart.
I'll give them a handful of rat pinks or something, like my adult female. Instead of giving her like a small adult mouse that's furred and everything, I'll give her like 4 or 5 fuzzies, a couple rat pinks. Like, I think that's sort of where they fall, like nest raider type deal. They definitely won't pass up a furred animal, but I noticed that if I fed them heavy, they spent more time in the water bowl. Because now, if I see them in there, it's likely because they're going into a shed cycle, and then I notice they start turning blue, and then I just don't see them for like a week. Like they disappear into the back of the cage, they hide, and then they shed and they come back out, and they're back to perching and hanging out like they do. But the babies are in and out of the water bowl. They're spending a lot of time in the humid hides. So next time, I probably will just keep them on damp spag for until that first shed. Fill each tub with spag. I separate mine after they're out of the egg. I guess I could keep them together. To me, I just like to have them separated so I can monitor each one in case there's any issues. Because that one I had, there was the clutch of 6, the one died. And the one that died was, I think, number 4 to come out of the egg, which was odd because it wasn't like the first one and it wasn't the last one. It was one of the ones sort of right there in the middle, which I would have expected to be like the first one or the last one, which the last one I ended up cutting the egg so it could come out because I wasn't sure if it was alive or not because it hadn't pipped yet after a week or so of all the other ones pipping.
Yeah.
And so far, I offered Rosy Reds right off the rip. I told myself I wasn't going to, but after the whole chondro thing with that and trying to dodge scenting as much as I could in hopes that I could get them going without having to do that, I was like, let me not play this game. Let me just go ahead and do some Rosies.
Yeah.
Did some Rosies. That was odd because one took like the same day. And then over the course of like a week, another one would take another day or two. Another one would take, like some of them, that fish would sit in that water bowl, like swimming around for days before they even ate it. But it would disappear.
Yeah.
So it was strange. And then I just tried yesterday. I cut some slivers of frog leg and put in the water bowl. No interest. I got to clean those water bowls out. And next is going to be floating some pinkies to see if there's any interest there.
The something we used to do when I worked at Underground, we would get red-tailed green rats drop eggs all the time, imports. And what we would do is we would get 6 or 8 quarts, and they had air holes drilled, right? And what you do is you would get, this is before we had paper straws, but McDonald's plastic straws, the ones with like the red and yellow stripe on them. And you know how you can kind of fold a straw a little bit? We would slide the McDonald's straw through the tub short ways and make a perch across the water bowl. And we would put 2 McDonald's straws there and then just take scissors and just cut the ends off. And you had to make sure that the air hole was big enough to take the straw, but not too big that the straw would fall through and then you have a loose snake. But yeah, we just use plastic straws. And because the babies are so small and light. What, 4 or 5 grams, if that?
Right.
Yeah.
We talked about it on THP Thursday, but I wasn't particularly stoked to do Rosies. I did them, and then as like the same day after I just put Rosies in each of the water bowls, I was talking to Matt about it. He was like, "Oh, don't start off with Rosies. Try floating a pinky in the water bowl first." And I was like, "That's great advice. I'm going to do that next time because right now there's Rosies in all the water bowls."
That's good.
The only reason I'm really not psyched about PetSmart Rosies, which is what these were, is like they're PetSmart Rosies, and we all know where their reptiles come from, and they're not exactly ideal conditions. I can't imagine their fish are any better. If anything, I would probably bet that their fish are probably worse because they have more of them and they're a little more disposable. Chopsticks, yeah, that's a good one too.
Yeah, that's good.
But I wanted to get something in them. They ate. Now we're going to continue to try some things. The main thing with the PetSmart sort of quality of that is just I'm more concerned about not necessarily even parasites, but just how sort of gross the Rosies are, if that makes sense. I don't know how to describe it.
No, I get it.
Those baby rhinos are tiny. And when you have an animal with a liver and kidneys that small, I can't imagine it would take much to do damage. So
Yeah,
that's kind of where I was like, I'm hesitant to give them rosies until they finally take. I definitely would. I would rather assist feed like mouse tails, and maybe do rosies like once a month, and just keep offering pinkies and see if they take. I don't know, but
well, is there a reason why they do rosies over guppies?
I'm a sure price, because I thought about that too, or I was like, would it be better if I got guppies from PetSmart over rosies? But then I was like, they're probably getting those from the same place they're getting the rosies, and is it really going to be any better quality wise? Because Billy was also like, get a group of guppies and raise your own. And
yeah, that's kind of what I was leading to. But I also feel like a lot of times, I mean, don't get me wrong, that I've been wrong on this exact statement before, but a lot of times the feeder fish are not kept in the same communal water system that the rest of the shop fish are. So like they'll have like a tank of guppies, they'll have like a tank of comets, and then they'll have all of the interconnecting wall of fish. You know what I mean? That is using the same massive sump. So I don't know. I think about that too. Is like all the interchanging water with all the different species from around the world, opposed to just a tank of rosies.
And that makes me wonder though. I need to ask Matt, like, what parasites do you have to worry about when you're dealing with something, aquatic prey wise?
Yeah.
What is it that could be picked up by a snake and it be a host for something like that? Yeah, and I mean, I thought about breeding my own guppies and mollies. I don't know how long they take to exponentially produce. Like, basically, I thought about it, and it was okay if I do that. By the time I have guppies to feed them, have they already just switched over to mice, and at that point, I just have a tank full of freaking guppies until I breed again.
Yeah, you're right.
Whenever that is. So I was like, maybe, and then I wish I still had dart frogs, because those Vittatus tadpoles were perfect. They were a perfect size. They were like big enough to be substantial, but not so big that they couldn't eat them. There was a million of them. Like, there was no issues there as far as consistency and having them available. But yeah, I'm trying some other stuff though. I'm trying to see if I can get some other tricks. I tried tuna juice, that didn't work. And I just talked about that on THP a little bit, and I think that was just because it doesn't smell like naturally fishy. Like, tuna smells like tuna. It doesn't really smell like fish. Like, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
The frog leg, I don't know what it is, because I was hopeful that they would take to that, but they didn't. And then I offered some to one of my older animals, and it's just so bizarre that they go crazy for rodents. Like, will come out of the cage for it. But if I try to give them frog leg, they just sniff it and they are like absolutely repulsed by it and turn around and go the opposite direction. Like, they want nothing to do with it. And it's so weird, because the chondros, I give chondros frog legs all day long. They freaking love them. But with everything else, it's like, I got a couple animals that I know will take them, like corns and stuff. But I know there's the Bairds every now and then, maybe, depending on the animal. Some of the corns, chondros, brettles, like, no big deal. They love it. But then the rhinos, man, like, and the percentum too, because I offered some to the percentum, and she was like, hell no, dude, get out of here. So it's strange.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like you could also do, you could freeze some rosies. I mean, I know it's barbaric, but you could freeze some rosies and then use their scent to do what you got to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I mean, that's what I did with a lot of, when I realized that the stilettos were 50% of the time eating the Chinese cooked snails. I just kept 3 or 4 snails frozen, and I just rubbed them on pinkies. And I really feel like on 2 of the 4 specimens that I did that with, it worked.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Trial and error, man.
Jeff said, get the kid a 10-gallon tank with pretty mollies and lots of plants. It'll be a baby making factory in about a month.
Yeah, that's true.
Daryl said, I've wondered if you could treat guppies and or rosies with tetracycline in the water to treat some parasites and if it would harm the snakes. I guess that would depend on sort of the dosage and how that works. I don't know. It's what sucks is like there's no matter how you cut it, like there's no clear way around it. You know, it's one of those things where you kind of are just gonna have to buckle down and do it. But having said that, rosies are 22 cents a piece. So it would be very easy to just go to PetSmart and be like, I'll take 20 of those and then freeze them and then use them for sending. And if they don't work for sending, thaw them out and feed those. You know?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, it's an in-water treatment, but that's the question is like how much. I'm sure it's by the gallon, I would assume, maybe by quart in terms of volume, but
yeah, they do parts
how
per
much
million.
would you have to put in there? And then again, like with kidneys and other filtration things in the body being that small and a snake that small.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how well that would work out, but put a drop of Asian fish sauce on a pinky. Yeah, so those have been. I'm not freaking out or panicking by any means, but it's going to be interesting. First rhinos, so it's a trial by fire kind of thing.
It's cool, man. You did it.
And then I've got some corns that are not wanting to survive either. So,
damn. How's the cutting test go?
That's going good. So I think we're on week like 7, maybe 8. Results are pretty much consistently being the same across the board each week. The group cut group is gaining roughly a half a gram a week. The non-cut group is starting to fall behind a little bit in terms of how much they're gaining per week. Like I do group averages. I think I showed it a couple weeks ago, 2 weeks ago when we were on here. And the cut group is now starting to pull away from that non-cut group a little bit. And then there's that one animal that just has not started, that is now starting to lose weight. It coasted for a while there for about 2 or 3 weeks. It just maintained. This last, over the weekend, it showed its first drop in weight. So I don't know. Yeah. I've tried a couple things with that animal as well, and it's just not happening. So I'm not expecting that animal to make it long term unless it decides to get its act together.
Yeah.
And then there's like 1 or 2 the het castagna motleys that aren't taking yet either. The ones that are though, I mean, man, they're chunky little things. They're I can just drop feed most of them and just throw something in there and it'll be gone. And then 3 of the 4 Bairds are eating regularly. I have 1 Baird's that is still holding out. And then we have the other clutch of Bairds. It's now 2 eggs. It was a 4-egg clutch. 2 of those eggs are getting moldy. Those are due to hatch. Let me see. Those were laid on the 12th of July. So we probably got another 12-ish days there.
Okay. Do you think those moldy eggs are shot?
One of them for sure. The other one, it might hatch. It might not. Wouldn't surprise me either way. But one of them. Are
you gonna just leave it?
Probably at this rate. They've been in there this long. It's not really like the one bad egg isn't like it's not spreading to everything else. You know.
Okay.
At least not visibly, but the 2 eggs that are good, they look fine. And then the Jansenii egg, we're on day 132. So we're getting down to the wire on that. I think we're inside of 2 weeks now, technically.
Nice.
We'll see what happens. I candled that it's been like a week or 2 ago, and there was no light coming through that egg.
Nice.
So we'll see. If I wake up one of these days and that egg is slit, I may have to call out of work.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm so paranoid. I like either that or I'm just gonna have to tell Katie, like, don't go in the closet today at all.
Yeah.
Like, wear dirty clothes, whatever you got to do. Like, just don't go in the closet for the love of God. Because my plan was to, if I see it and it's pipped, was to cover the front of the incubator and then tell Katie, like, don't go in there.
Yeah.
Just don't set foot in there.
Yeah. That's it.
If you love me, you will do this.
Yeah. Just take out a few outfits, put them under like the dresser.
Pack a bag.
Pack a bag.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty much.
Jeff asked if I had tried the traditional tricks like Dawn dish soap cleaning, boiled pinks, and rubbing dirt. I have not. I tried the dish soap thing with some of the corns and no reaction. Boiled pinks, to me that's like a last resort thing. I really don't want to have to boil pinkies because I don't really have anything to boil them in, and I'm pretty sure if Katie saw me using one of the Pyrex things, she'd be pretty pissed. That might require a trip to Walmart for a separate Pyrex glass. Clearly marked that it is the pinky Pyrex.
Yeah.
We'll give that a shot, but emergency pip close ready, yeah. Terrell said it's not the nicest thing, but a trick I've used with some success is to put on latex gloves and grab an knoll, let a bit of each fresh pink on the nose, real good. Pinky in with the snake in the deli. Something about the saliva works sometimes. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It's just like one of the head Castagna Motleys. I used the pinky head thing and I like held it by the tail and I will hold the pinky head and tap it. And it's like every time you tap those things, they bite. Like it takes no effort to get those things to take a swing at something. And it grabbed the head and it held onto it and it finally ate it after, a couple seconds of sort of hanging there. So, but the frustrating thing with that is, so that same snake yesterday, I teased it into grabbing a pinky and it got about halfway down and I was not moving because as soon as it grabbed it, I was still holding it and I froze. And so I slowly lowered it to put it on the paper towel and like let go of it.
That's where you made a mistake.
It started to keep eating. I was like, okay, cool.
Oh, all right.
Then I moved or did something and it immediately like gave it back up and I left it there hoping maybe it would come back. Never did.
So oh, jeez.
I was like, damn it.
The worst. You probably could have tease fed it where it was at that point. And I probably would have grabbed it again.
I've tried those things. They just spaz out and do circles. They do laps around the tub. Like tease feeding them like that does not work. I have found that if I hold them by the tail and let them hang and then have them grab it and I let them go and they hold on to it in midair, they'll kind of wait there for a second and then they'll just start eating it. But just tease feeding them as is in that tub is not happening. They freak the fuck out. They fly out of the tub onto the floor. I end up chasing them around for a minute and they're biting everything. And that clutch is horrible. Like as far as flighty, bitey little corn snakes, dude, that clutch is the worst I have ever had. It's wild. I've never had a corn clutch this high strung.
Nice.
It's strange. Every single one of them, dude. There ain't a chill snake in that bunch. They're all just little satanic monsters.
That's good, man.
And you would think that as a result of that, they'd be the easiest to sort of get going. And most of them have been, but those couple that are holding out, man, it's like, what gives, man? All the hypos and stuff, though, that I'm doing the cutting experiment with, besides number 6, the holdout, they're all drop feeding like champs. Like those, I've got a couple that'll take it straight off the tongs and eat it. A lot of the other ones, I just have to drop it in there and leave it and it'll get eaten. But everything there is like rocking and rolling on food. So
nice. It's like,
nice. And it's interesting too, because there's what?
Go ahead.
What were you saying?
I don't remember. Go on.
I don't know. There's a very clear difference too between the cut and the uncut group, even though they're eating on the same schedule and they are actually eating. Like the cut ones they're just bulkier, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Like they're not,
You think they gain more muscle mass faster?
They're just chunkier. Like tone wise, they're just a little more built. The stuff that's on no cuts is just a little more slender.
Okay.
It's odd. I don't know if I could even take a picture of it and it would come through, but
yeah,
you can definitely look at them and tell there's a difference, even though they're all eating, on the same day, no issues. It's odd. It's interesting. But my plan is, I don't know how much longer I'm going to do it. Probably going to keep it going for another couple weeks, but at least have it done before we put out this next, the return issue of the magazine.
Yeah, for sure.
I'd like to sort of do the write-up for that on it. So
I think it'd be great.
I just want to have more data to show.
Well, it's funny. We're talking about drop feeding and stuff. Anna Maria got one of the Pueblan milks that Vic Lorana produced. She got it from Billy, and we had waited probably 10 days or so before we tried to feed it, just to let him chill out and settle in. Right, Billy was taking good care of it, so there's nothing wrong with it. And I went to tease feed it like I do all my milk snakes, and dude, that thing freaked out. And like at one point, Emery even says, she's like, I think we put too much Aspen because you're just chasing the thing around. You know what I mean? Because it's just like it had already made its intricate series of tunnels like the Viet Cong. And and I wound up just leaving it on top of the humid hut. I was like, look, we'll just leave it here. If it's there in the morning, then we'll try something else, a couple days. And I was gone 20 minutes and that thing was gone. Just scarfed it.
That's what I did for that Leonis from Chris, man. I just put a pinky on that hide.
We'll see. Gone. And then hopefully Chris doesn't get mad at me when he hears this, but I don't want to frozen thaw pinkies. I don't know. It just, for some reason, it just annoys me. So I tried to drop feed live twice, and it looked at me like, I'm not doing that. So I'm going to boil one tonight and leave it in there. So I figured now it's been long enough it needs to eat. So
yeah, mine's going into a shed cycle right now, but mine's already had like 4 meals.
Oh wow, jeez.
Yeah, dude. And that same that other Leonis from that older couple, dude, that thing is a chunk. Like that thing just hammers food off the tongs, like snatch and grab.
Nice.
So they had that thing rocking and rolling, before the show, obviously, but everything else has been eating great too. That little zombie that I got from zombie corn from Alan at Rock Creek, that one was the only thing that I brought back from Daytona that held out for a little bit. But it's had 3 consecutive meals in it, and I've just been drop feeding. I don't know what the holdup was there, but it's finally eaten and taken off. And that little castagna that I got from him, dude, that thing grabs and wraps like a king.
Nice. Dude, speaking of kings, so we joke about Methropeltis, right? Love me some Methropeltis. I've never really experienced a methed out king snake. I really haven't. I mean, they have a good feed response, Dude, the Outer Banks babies that I got from Doc Loafman last year, they're at least a year old now. Those things are freaking lunatics. They're cocktail straws on meth. It's adorable. Like
coming after everything.
Just literally, like I lift the lid up, and it's in my face, like hilariously adorable. So I'm gonna have to mind my P's and Q's as those things get older. I mean, luckily they're not a big species of Eastern King, a big phenotype, so to speak. But still, it's hilarious how vivacious they've gotten.
Yeah, dude. When my dad had those chain kings, man, it was like you open the tub and
yeah,
that snake was gonna come out of that tub. It was happening. Like you weren't stopping it. If it moved, it was food. Like the green trees, they do their thing where you open it and they're like, and then like, oh wait, there's no food, never mind, and they're completely chill. Those friggin' chain kings, man, You open that tub and they were like, oh, okay. And then they bolt, but they're not bolting because they're running. They're bolting because they think that they're getting fed and they're coming straight for you.
Sure.
Ridiculous.
And it's just crazy because, like, dude, I've kept adult chain kings, I've kept adult going eye, I've kept adult Floridana, and I never, like, there was a feed response, but it wasn't the methylpeltis. Dude, these babies are nuts. they're batty. Oh man. So I will say, of all my recent pickups, everything's doing great. Obviously the Leonis needs to eat, but everything's doing great. But I'm getting a little neurotic about my albino suboc. It's eaten 3 times so far. It will not eat in front of me. It hides. It does not explore at night the way that the other subocs do. And I'm wondering if it's just an albino thing. This is my first personally owned albino snake, and I'm wondering if it just, that's why. I don't know. I gave it extra paper towel rolls, tubes. I gave it cardboard, like what is it called? I can't remember what it's called. It's basically the cardboard that they use to make the disposable drink carriers.
Mm-hmm.
I have like a bigger, heavier, denser version of that. It's not meant for drinks, but like, and I cut them in half to make hides out of it. And I
love those things.
Yeah. And I gave it a Brahms perch, and dude, it used the perch the first week that I had it. And then I've not seen that snake ever since.
Is it in a shed cycle though?
I don't know. I mean, I put the pinky in on top of the paper towel. I check it the next morning. It's gone. I look under the tub to make sure, but like, I don't want to disturb it because it's still fresh. But it's just interesting to me that it doesn't have the exploratoriness that I would be expecting of Bogertophus.
It could just be taking them a little while longer to settle in, and it could be going into a shed cycle or something. With those albino stuff, it can be harder to see that a shed cycle's in the works.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
But I mean, if it's eaten, like, good, you know.
Yeah, and then there's poops in there. Poops look good.
If it don't want me to see it, that's great. As long as it's eaten, I don't care. Like, I'll play by your rules as long as you're doing what I need you to do.
Yeah. And then that big silver female that I got from Nemo, dude, that snake's hilarious. Like, it hides during the day, and then right around dusk, if I go in there like after work or whatever, I'll see her like poke her head out of a paper towel roll and just kind of give me like you dropping something in here?
Yeah.
You dropping something?
That's how that male wild rose pass was, dude. It was great.
Yeah.
I'd open that tub and he just head would poke out and watch me.
Mm-hmm.
And then as soon as I'd get the water bowl out to do a water change or something, or I'd move the paper towel roll that he was in, he'd like pull his head back, and that would be it. I wouldn't see him again.
Yep.
He's like, okay, I know we're not getting what I want today.
Well, it's cool. I gave her, so she's got a Brahms perch in there, and then some tubes, and then a black plastic hide and a water bowl, and then some of the bedding, the bedding that I got was in the deli cup that Nemo gave me. I threw that in there just for scent transfer, and
which I've actually come to do that with a lot of stuff now.
Yeah, dude, for sure.
I've found that it makes a massive difference.
It really does. It does.
Even with the chondros, moving them from smaller tubs into bigger tubs, just taking that paper towel out or that puppy pad that they were on, and putting it in that new setup, they seem to adjust and transition so much better to bigger tubs as far as like staying on food and things like that. If I did that, and so now, like with any new snake, if it gets shipped and it comes with paper towel or something, and obviously there's no signs of mites or any issues there, like I'll put that in the new tub.
Sure.
It just seems to make everything so much smoother.
Yeah, I agree completely. I've even done it where you have an animal in a tub that you've raised up, and you're on paper towel or puppy pad or whatever, and it's time to go into a viv, right? It's time to go into an actual enclosure. And I make the substrate up, and I have, the fake plants, live plants, whatever, decor. I'll still put paper towel, like maybe not all of it, but like a good, I'll put paper towel on top of the bedding, on top of the substrate for 2-3 weeks until it gets a little funky, just to give that transition.
Yeah. Old gross hides. Like if I'm moving something into a bigger tub and it's got a hide that clearly needs to be thrown out, like it can have it for another week or two.
Yeah, exactly.
At first, I used to think that I was like, that's bullshit. Like the snakes don't care. A new setup is a new setup is a new setup. It's foreign. But then when I noticed with a green tree that I had moved into a bigger tub, like a Python portal setup from something smaller, immediately went off food. Just clearly was not settling in well. But if I move it back to that smaller tub, went right back to how it was doing before, ate great, did everything. And finally, I was like, well, let me at least try it. I moved it back into the Python portal and took the paper towel from that smaller tub and put it in there. Went right back to food, like completely different, like it had never left. It was, yeah, it's weird. And so even now when I do like bedding changes too, so like if I upgrade something into something bigger and they're getting more bedding, I'll still take 2 handfuls, 3 handfuls of that old bedding from that older tub and sprinkle it in there with the new stuff.
Yeah, you gotta do it, man.
And I think it's like they know it's something new, but I think it's also like now they're like, oh wait, there's more space, and it's the same space that I was in before. If that makes,
or even if it just smells like home.
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah, everything's different and there's all these new smells, there's all this new visual stimulus, but it still smells like me. So I guess it's okay, you know?
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe we're thinking too much about it.
I think there's definitely something to it, you know?
No, yeah, I know there's something to it, but if you and I are on the same page as to what it actually is, you know what I mean? I'm actually really excited. I'm going to finish this healing enclosure, and then
how much more do you have to go on that?
I've just been procrastinating stuff. You know, I could have did it in a day. It's just like I'm having a hard time telling myself and my friends that do really, really nice naturalistic vivs, like my friend Chris from work, who I always talk about, and Dustin Gron, and those types of people that build these amazing enclosures. They're telling me the same thing. Stop trying to do it in a day. Take your time, do it right. You know, you're going to change your mind about some stuff. You're going to modify some stuff, and it'll be worth it in the end. But my problem is I don't want to do that. I want to wake up at like 9 a.m. on a Sunday and have that sucker done and ready for Instagram by dinner time. You know what I mean? So with this healing enclosure, I have been taking my time, and like I started looking at different rocks and like how I'm going to do the excavator clay, and I bought more excavator clay, and I bought some pea gravel, and I want to kind of play around with that a little bit. And then I got the LED lights going, but the LED lights are like the wrong Kelvin, and I can't get it nice, and I'm being really picky about it. Meanwhile, at the same time, the Gila Monster's like, dude, I'm still in this fucking tub. Get me the fuck out of this fucking tub, you know? So, I mean, she's eating and pooping and drinking and fine, but like, I still feel bad, you know?
Yeah. How you doing on that there, number 9?
Just burn myself. It's delicious.
Oh, I had one of the worst cigars I've ever had in my life a couple nights ago.
Do tell.
So Esteban Carreras, who puts out some good stuff. They have the Covenant, which is probably one of their best, if not their best, in my opinion. Right. They got that Devil's Hand Corojo that just came out. They've got the Chupacabra, which I've talked about. It's a nice cigar. They have one that's called the Soga, and it's like $6.50. So it's not anything crazy. I wasn't expecting greatness by any means, but for $6.50, I was like, let's give it a shot. No flavor whatsoever. That thing was like smoking a paper towel tube.
Oh, that stinks.
Dried out my mouth.
Really?
It was. I have not had a bad cigar like that in a while, but that thing was.
That's rough. A shame.
So, the moral of the story is spend the extra $1 and get the Nica Rustica Adobe or broadleaf, which Phil smoked some of those. You had at least one of those Adobes at Daytona, right?
I did. It was delicious.
It's such a good cigar for the money. It's phenomenal.
Oh yeah,
that's become like my go-to. It's become like my daily smoker. They don't disappoint. Smoked one earlier today.
Nice.
It's tasty.
Very nice.
Hello.
Oh, we have a visitor?
It's Katie.
What's up, Katie?
She said, hey.
Hey.
He can't hear you. It's not a microphone. It's a headphone. She wants to know what the wedding plan is.
Oh, I have no idea. Ask my fiance.
He has no idea. Ask. Oh, you have to hear. You can hear him. There you go.
Leave the important decisions up to the women folk.
Yeah. She just shakes her head in disappointment. Don asked if it's a normal pattern silver or a blonde.
The one I got from Nemo?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, all right. So, right now I've got a 2020 silver standard H pattern that is het for blonde. And then I have an albino H pattern that is also het for blonde. And then I have a silver H pattern that is het for albino and blonde. But that smaller one I was just talking about, I don't trust any of the lineage. I don't trust it at all because I got it from some Joe Schmo at a local reptile show. And the guy had no idea what he was talking about. I don't even think he produced it. I think somebody else did, and he just flipped it. So I'm very excited, but I thought it was a boy. And the shed that I just got from it says girl. So I'm going to start collecting every shed and just checking every shed and go from there. Because I know they're super easy to pop, but I don't want to pop sub-box. I watch people do it and I watch their tail bend and it weirds me out. And I could probe it, but look, if it's a girl, awesome. Just give me a reason to buy another one. You know what I mean? And if it's a boy, rock and roll. I'm set up. I got a trio. So, and I figure probably because I don't know if I'm going to do the whole Christmas thing. I haven't decided yet because it's South Florida and it's hot all the time, every day of my life. I may try and pair them up in spring, but Christmas rat snakes breed in sub-box in winter.
Are they winter breeders?
No, but
they can be if
they
you want
can. They can be. Oh. Yeah, it's one of those things of pairing them up in autumn, doing that kind of thing. And then people are saying, "Well, no, you pair them in summer, so that way you have babies by Christmas." Okay. You know what I mean? There's 3 or 4 different ways of thinking, and I'm probably fucking that up in some degree. But I figure by springtime 2024, he'll be more than ready to pair to the Nemo female. And we'll just take it from there. See how it goes.
Yeah, I've been trying to get better at popping. I popped the all 4 of the Bairds this morning because at least a pair of those are going to go to Joe Peck. We're trading. I'm trading some Bairds for some corns, some castagna stuff.
Shocking.
And well, it's not. He had some apricot stuff, which is castagna and ultramel that we had talked about a couple months ago, and he was like, I got this male laying around. I don't really have any use for him. I know you're into castagna. If you want him, let me know. And then we got to talking. He had some more stuff, and I was like, I'll give you a pair of Bairds if you want to trade straight up. And he said, sure. Yeah. So I told him I hadn't sexed any of them yet, so I popped them this morning, and it looks like it's 1.3. The problem is when the males pop, and they pop like they're supposed to, it's very obvious that they're males, but it's the females that I constantly question because it's like, what if it's a male and I just couldn't get it to do its thing?
Of course.
So I think at least 2 of those are for sure females, but there's one in particular of the 3 that pop female where that tail, like the housing is awfully thick compared to the other 2 females. And I tried to pop it again. I tried popping it twice. And I couldn't get anything come out the second time either. So I was like, I know for sure I have one male because there was one that I popped and both those things were like, bling, like they popped right out. It was like a jack in the box.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, perfect. There we go. So I was like, the other ones should be this easy if they're males too, because they just came right out. Like very little effort. Didn't have to put a lot of pressure. No big deal. Just I've watched Jake do it and Jake's like, rah! Like,
Ugh.
I know it's painful. He's like, dude, that's how it works. And I'm like, maybe that's the reason I'm not good at it is because I'm trying to be gentle with them.
Yeah.
Because I also feel like it's not something that should require that much force.
Yeah. I
it's
can't
soft tissue. It should not be that difficult.
And I've done it a bunch, man. I'm not good at it. It freaks me out. I'd honestly rather probe stuff. I've probed so many things that I'd rather just do that. But your shed trick, man, that shit's like gangbusters.
That's not my shed trick. That shed trick is Travis Stu Tennyson's.
Oh, really? Well, kudos to him for sure. But
I found though that it's more reliable with older animals, at least most of the time. With younger ones, I don't know. I haven't really paid attention because most of the time when my stuff sheds, they break it in half, and it's like they have it all bunched up, and it's
you got to have it right. And then the whole blood spot thing, that I'm a firm believer, like you said, has got to be something to do with kind of, I don't want to say menstrual cycle or something, but that I've only seen on year or older animals. But the whole being flat or broken or flat or open on neonates, dude, that shit's works every time for me.
Really?
But I mean, I've only been doing it with colubrids, so.
Well, I mean, that's the only thing I've really done that with, because any Morelia and stuff, if it's a male, after a certain period of time, you're going to get plugs, and they're going to be obvious, you know?
Yeah. Well, like the Cerastes, I can't get a normal shed because by the time I find it, it's just a ball of sand and skin, you know, because it comes off hydrated, and then the sand just turns it to stone. The Rincals, they all look exactly the same, and I know, obviously, I know I have the sex ratio that I have because I've probed them, but honestly,
could you not send the Cerastes sheds to be sexed genetically?
I'm sure we could, but I mean, you just look you look at them, you can tell.
It's just those, I mean, they're fairly obvious. They're kind of like puffs, right? Where it's like
it's nowhere
very obviously a puff.
It's nowhere near as clear cut as Bitis. I mean, Bitis, you could look at one from across a parking lot and know if it's a boy or a girl. These, I had to literally hold deli cups up and like compare and contrast. And when you have a pair, you're like, oh shit, look at the difference. But if you're just looking at an individual animal one at a time, it's tricky for me. It's kind of like rattlesnakes. I mean, you look at enough rattlesnakes, you can tell which one's hennish. You know what I mean? I mean, I haven't got to that point with rattlesnakes, but like, I'm sure someone like Kyle could look at any baby rattlesnake and be like, girl, boy, girl, boy, girl, boy. It's crazy because I've sent Kyle pictures of rock rattlers that I didn't get from him, and he's like, oh, that's a boy. Oh, that's a girl.
Yeah.
Send me another picture of that one because it kind of looks like a girl. And then I sent him like a different angle. He's like, oh yeah, that's a girl. And then sure as hell,
I wish it was that easy with all of them.
I know, right?
With everything. I don't know. The shed thing, though, that one wild caught corn that I have really threw me for a loop because it probed female, it shed female, and then after, when I couldn't figure it out, or maybe it probed male and then it shed female, and I was like, I don't know what gives. Like, I can't figure out what this thing's supposed to be. So I put it with a proven female, and then a proven male, just to see if I got a reaction. And it wasn't until I put it in with a female that I was like, oh, that's a boy. Because as soon as I put him in with that Ladies Island female, he was like, let's go.
Nice.
I put him in with another male. He freaked out. Like, he was like,
oh, really?
It was strange. It was interesting because, you know, most people, they'll keep groups together, you know, as far as corns go. But it's like, if you put a smaller male corn in with a bigger male corn, I'd notice a difference in behavior where that smaller male wants to get out of that tub like quick. It's weird. Like it's odd because I mean there's no combat, there's none of that stuff that you would see in like other species, but that younger male just wants to get out of dodge.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was odd. But yeah, that one's definitely a male, and now I'm like, I don't know what to pair him to, because I'm thought about pairing the Ladies Island female, but I've got other stuff. I want to pair her next year to one of her offspring from 2021. But that male, man, he's so nice. I don't know. I don't want to not pair him to something, but
yeah, see, that's kind of why. Just going back to my Bogotopha's addiction, I was just reading Gallagher's thing about how he loves normal H pattern silvers. I'm not an albino guy. I'm not a blonde guy, and I really love the
Yeah, I'm
silver
not
look.
either.
You
I
know,
love the silvers.
yeah,
Silver Catholics are
and
incredible.
that's kind of what I want to focus on. And so I got this albino River Road from David Powell, awesome animal. But I'm super excited to see the offspring because I know that with my silver male, regardless of what genetics he has in there, when I pair him to that albino, the hets are going to be screaming. They're going to look great, and that I think that is what I'm most excited about of all my future years from now pairings that I'm going to do. That one I think has me the most excited, just because I have no idea what's going to come out.
Yeah, man. I don't know how. Well, I mean, I know how, but this year was supposed to be a lighter year for me as far as breeding goes.
How it happens, man.
I've been frankly overwhelmed the last handful of weeks with my room and everything in it, and I need to
Rodents and
downsize.
everything.
And I was in the shower a couple nights ago. That's where I do all my deep thinking,
Contemplation.
I call it the think tank.
Nice.
And I was just standing there, and I was like, I want to pair stuff next year, but then I was like thinking about this year, and I was like, I need to be more choosy about what I'm pairing. And it's not that I haven't been choosy about it up until now, but I was just like, I don't like being overloaded with babies.
Yeah.
Like, it's really stressful.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think about guys like Alan at Rock Creek and Jeff Bong and, Eric Westmoreland, who crank out a ton of babies every year. And I'm just like, I can't. Like that.
Well, it's also
I love it, but it sounds exhausting.
It's also having a venue to disperse them.
The fortress of Smittytude.
Nice, Nate. Nice. I feel like it's having a venue to disperse them, whether it be wholesaling them or giving them to youth organizations or friends or what have you. And I feel like the same way that you have to plan on how you're going to do your pairings and how you're going to do your feedings, you got to plan on what you're going to do. It's a question that everyone knows they have to ask themselves and they don't want to, is what if no one wants these things?
Mm-hmm.
And like, I know, so I paired puff adders intentionally during some low pressure systems. I got some intertwining, but I didn't see definitive locks.
Mm-hmm.
So in theory, it would be, say, August, September, October, November, December, January, February. So in theory, February, March, I would have a litter. And this is KwaZulu-Natal locality, so it's smaller species. So realistically,
thank you, Don.
Realistically, 10ish to 15ish litters, right? But then what do I do with them?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not like the golden days where I could just give away babies to friends,
right?
Especially in Florida, most of the wholesalers by me don't do venomous anymore, so that means I'm going to have to sell them out of state.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have to do airfare and all of that, or probably go to a show, dare I say Columbia or Ham or whatever. Or do I just hold them all back and just have an army of puff adders? I don't know.
Right.
And I know it may sound like I'm counting my eggs before I own a chicken,
Mm-hmm.
but I have you have to think about. Yeah, you got to think about that stuff, because it's not just a corn snake that I can wholesale.
Jeff said we could all use to be a little more selective in our pairings. Aside from supply and demand, it's just responsible. And nothing like, there wasn't anything I did this year that wasn't selective. It's just the more I thought about it, where it's like, the issue is that female double clutching.
Yeah,
that's where the stress comes in. Like, if I had just had what I have currently, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But with the second clutch of like 10 or 11 eggs hatching soon, it's like, oh my God. And I wasn't planning for that. I'm prepared. Like, I have the ability to handle another clutch. Like, I have all the tubs and stuff. That's not an issue. But I don't know. It's just the thought of, like, I bred that pair that gave me those hypo babies. That was that pied blood red male to the ghost tesser female. And that was because I lost that pied blood red female that was supposed to go to him, because that was given to me by Jeremy Thompson. You know, it was like a special project. It was a special pair that he sent me, and I lost the female, and I feel like an idiot because that happened, even though it wasn't really in my control. But I bred those because it's like, I want to be able to carry on the lineage of that animal. But then I'm also now looking at the point of like, I'm going to hold back like probably 2 animals of those 22.
Yeah.
It's like, is it really worth it to produce 22 animals to be able to hold on to 2 to then raise up for the next 3 or 4 years?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And the Castagna stuff, like the Castagna Motley, like I don't regret that pairing at all. I don't regret any of the pairings, but you know, I got 3 of those I'm holding back for sure. But it's like I still have a handful of those that need to, you know, find homes. And
well, you could also do the whole skip a year thing.
Yeah.
You just skip a year, man. You know, don't skip a year on the Gagnos and stuff, but
for sure,
skip
like,
a year on
stuff
corns.
that wouldn't happen, but like next year, I don't want to skip next year, at least because of the next step in the Ladies Island line breeding thing of like pairing a male back to the female that produced it. Like I definitely want to do that, but then Chris gave me a pied blood red female to go with that male that I could reasonably skip next year. I think she could probably actually, if she took a year off, it wouldn't be a bad thing. He gave me a Coral Ghost Aztec female that she's really nice. I have no idea what I'm going to pair to her. Like I could go so many different routes there. And that's part of the overwhelming part of it is like, I could do so much with that, but it's like, what makes the most sense? And you can't really ask people that because you're going to get a different answer from every person you talk to. Like one person's going to be like, pair that to a, you know, that het sun-kissed male because she's het sun-kissed, which would be awesome. Like I love sun-kissed stuff. I've got a honey pair that I've been raising up for the last 2 or 3 years that I want to put together next year. Like I've got the pair from Lee Abbott that I got, you know, the year we've ended Daytona. Like I've been waiting on those. So it's so hard to say I can pair these this year, but I'm going to skip. I'm going to give them another year.
Yeah.
When you've been waiting, and I get it's a little different when you have to wait, like with the green trees, you know, knowing that if you pair them and they're too young or they're legitimately too small, that you're going to kill that animal. Like that makes it a no-brainer. It's like, obviously that's not going to happen. But it's really hard when you've got corns in particular you've been raising up and you're like, next year's the year for them. Am I going to do it or am I going to skip?
Yeah.
You know, and then Bairds, I think next year I'm going to take a year off of Bairds.
And see, I was going to say to not skip on the Bairds because that's a species that's always in demand. Regardless of monetary value, it's always in demand by somebody.
My only regret with those this year was not doing the Loma Altas together again. But
yeah,
I think those she could use to have a year off.
And I'm not talking about stuff like that where the animal deserves a year off. I'm talking about stuff has never bred or whatever.
Right.
And like I look at some of the stuff that I'm going to probably pair next year, like for example, those Viclarano Hondurans. It's part of a long line project that him and myself and Billy have committed to. I have to at least produce one clutch to see what the next step is. Even if I give all those babies back to him to kind of sort through and figure out what he wants to do, that's got to happen. So like because of this program that we've decided to do, Mexican Black Kings, I figure I'll do it. I've never done it. I figure I'll do it once, which will probably be next year. And these are like primo specific locality collected in the 70s. I don't even freaking remember, but if people don't want them, I give them away to friends and call it a day. And then I don't do it ever again because I'm not a huge Mexican Black King guy. I just have them because I think they're cool. Subbox is easy. I just going to keep every single one forever. That's fine.
And that's fine and dandy until you have a ton of animals.
Exactly. Yeah, I know. I joke.
That's the issue I run into because it's like I would love to hold on to everything indefinitely until I'm like, that for sure is staying. That for sure can go. That's staying. That can go. You know, kickball style.
Yeah.
But it's easier said than done, because when you realize that things got to eat.
Yeah.
Which that's not nearly as much of an issue for me with the rats and stuff now as it was, 2 years ago, whatever. But
to the average Joe, you could double a collection in a year.
Yeah.
And that's a lot, man, And like the same way that you got Abbott Oketees, I got Abbott Oketees. Dude, we've been raising them for what, 3 years now? 2 years now?
2 years at least.
Dude, like I gotta do it, man. I gotta freaking do it. And I feel like you and I won't have a problem rehoming them, for lack of a better word, because of what they are. But my pair of Broward County, South Florida corns that are normal-ish looking. I mean, they don't look like normal corns. They don't, but they're not true Miami phase. They're not crazy.
No, but they are good-looking snakes. Like, they are very cool-looking corns.
So
I'd be interested to see what those produce.
Exactly. And I'm going to do it once. And if people are interested, great. And if I don't do it ever again, I don't do it ever again. Oh, well,
Yeah, and that's part of my issue. Like, this stress, it doesn't have to be stressful.
Right.
Because I have put zero effort into putting any of these things out for availability. And it's mostly just because I just haven't had the time to do it. Frankly, the thought of selling on Morph Market sounds exhausting. And I understand that's not the only avenue.
I don't think it's as exhausting as if you had, like, let's say, Matt Most's collection. That could be exhausting. But I feel
I mean exhausting, not in like the posting and stuff like that. I'm
okay.
About exhausting in the fact of, like, I know I'm gonna have people message me, and I know that like maybe 1 out of 10 of those are actually gonna follow through.
Yeah.
And like, I understand it. You're not, just because someone messages you about something you have for sale does not mean they are obligated to buy it. But
right.
At the same time, I have seen enough screenshots from people as of late, in multiple groups that I'm in, like friend groups and stuff, circles, that it's like the same song and dance, just with different people, where like they're asking the same questions, and it's like, then they just disappear. And it's like, that just sounds exhausting to me. It's like, I don't.
Yeah. Tire kickers, man.
Because we're also getting to the point now, like come November, like mid-November, like once we hit Thanksgiving, I don't ship again until like mid-January.
Oh yeah.
Because that holiday season, like anytime from like Thanksgiving past New Year's, like I'm not even going to bother. It's not going to happen. It's too crazy.
Yeah.
So now it's like.
Well, I saw with all this new Morph Market photo stuff, and we've had several different friends and several different groups complain about one thing or another in regards to photographs and group animals and pictures of the individual specimen for sale, and how daunting that can be at times depending on what you're doing. I keep seeing this, are you only allowed 1 photo per post, or can you put like 4 or 5 photos on each post?
No, you can put multiple pictures.
Okay, because everything that I've looked at for myself, like not selling, shopping, it's all just 1 photo.
It could be, I don't know if it's a plan limit or not, like if you have to be paying for a certain tier to get multiple pictures. But as far as I know, like when I had just the basic free plan, like you could put, I think, at least 2 or 3 pictures per post.
Yeah, because that just made sense to me, because I feel like a lot of the stuff I'm looking at, the photo is very generic. And like, especially like if I'm looking at Subox and I want to see scalation, and like, I'm not this master breeder, I'm a straight up hobbyist, but I still want to look and see exactly what I'm getting. You can't just give me 1 picture of the first third of the animal. You know what I mean? Like, what the hell is that? So,
yeah, I mean, since the changes that have been made to Morph Market across the board, big and small, I don't know. Just overall, it seems like I've been hearing from people that use it as a selling platform and as like their main selling platform that it is kind of become a net negative in terms of like user experience, customer experience, like dealing with buyers. It just does not seem like it's gotten better.
It's amazing how
makes me not want to sell on there.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, it's still, in my personal opinion, as much as I loved kingsnake.com, as much as I painfully used Fauna because it hasn't changed since fucking
1998.
1992. Yeah. Because that it's a friggin' nightmare to navigate. And then I have to get the Tapatalk app because I'm lazy and don't want to filter through all the nonsense, right? Morph Market is brilliant. It's a brilliant website. It's a fantastic app. I love the way they did it, the layout, the menus. It's friggin' awesome. But there's too many people complaining about issues, man. And I feel like it hit its peak and now it's that
On the
line
other side
graph.
of that hill.
That line graph is just crashing, man. I don't want to see that happen because I feel like it's an amazing platform, but there's just too much nonsense that's corresponding with it. You know?
Well, I'm also starting to wonder if I'd be better off just on like the THN site or something, putting a page with availability where all of us can put our stuff there, because Morph Market has become the standard for selling. There's a ton of people on there. There's a ton of corn snakes on there. And so it's one of those things where would it be easier and better if I just put stuff that I had for sale on the THN page and be like, this is where you can go to find it, instead of having to sift through endless listings.
Yeah.
Because I know, like, especially in corns, and like, I don't even know what it's like with ball pythons, but I can only imagine you post a listing and it's gone. Like, as soon as you post it, it's already on page 3. Like, with as many animals as they have on there.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I think Billy said that he's done that where he's put stuff on his website and pretty much
that's what he's doing. Yeah, he's using
it's worked out really well for him.
Yeah, he's using Morph Market for a few key things, but the majority of Billy's availability is on his website. You know, and same thing with Owen. Owen's website he crushes it on his website. So
yeah, I just think that it's very easy to get lost in the stream of ads and stuff going on Morph Market. And again, it's become the standard, and I think that's great. I think John did a hell of a job getting it to where it was, and
agreed.
Who knows what's going to happen now? We've talked about it sort of behind the scenes a little bit. Like, my outlook on Morph Market has changed since the switch. I was very optimistic at first, probably to a detriment, actually, because I'm not as excited about it as I was. Now, like, again, like I'm almost dreading having to use it because of where it's at currently.
Yeah, and like, here's my thing. I don't want to talk ill of it because it's not bad, and none of the things they've done are bad per se. It's I feel like there's drama that's corresponded with or associated with it.
Yeah,
it's people having trying to find the right words to use. People are annoyed with policy change. People are annoyed with things not being maintained the way that they expect it to. People are annoyed with the lack of communication. We've got friends sending us screenshots of like, hey, I had questions about this, and it took them days to respond. They didn't respond. They had to send another message. And it's like, what are we doing? You know what I mean? This is a major business community. So,
yeah. I mean, I feel especially for the guys that do it full time or almost full time. Westmoreland, the guys that do it full time, like it's most definitely a tool that you almost have to use at that level.
Yeah.
Just for the sake of getting stuff out there in front of eyeballs. But I don't know. Yeah. It's starting to sound like, at least from talking to Billy, and I think one or two other people that I can't think of off the top of my head right now, but they were doing something similar where they just started posting stuff on a website. And I know there's a couple people that have asked about setting up a website for that very fact of like, I want to put my availability there and just make it easy. Yeah. It's like, the only animals you're seeing for sale are the ones that you have for sale. It's not, 200 other people across the country. I don't know. Maybe that's the route people are going to start going. Like, maybe that's the direction things are going to shift to.
Yeah. Especially now that there are so many, because online shopping has exploded the way that it has. There are so many easy, relatively inexpensive shopping website providers So you can literally, you're not buying an Angel Fire website, you know what I mean, or GoDaddy where you're literally typing code over and over again.
Shopify now, dude.
Shopify.
You can set up websites so
Yeah.
easily now. You don't have to have any coding experience whatsoever. I have zero coding experience, and I built sites on WordPress. I built sites on Shopify. I built sites on what was the other one? Squarespace.
Yeah.
Like they've all made it very easy to where it's literally drag and drop kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't know a line of code. Couldn't tell you a one if my life depended on it.
Yeah.
It's definitely not what it was, 25 years ago.
Yeah.
But I think that's kind of the ebb and flow is like people are going to start moving elsewhere as far as marketplaces go. They're either going to make their own or they're just going to go to some of the other ones that are now cropping up, which to me, the other marketplaces that are now starting to come about as a direct response to the whole morph market thing, that's not a surprise to me at all. Like as soon as I started seeing complaints and stuff coming in about morph market and all the changes and stuff, I was like, we're going to see more marketplaces show up now. Like there's going to be a direct response where people are going to start basically trying to do the same thing, but the way they see that it should be.
Well, there was another one at Daytona, right?
Yeah, there's like two or three
now. Lanyards. They were giving away. The lanyards.
Yeah.
I can't remember what the company was, but
I think it was Repticart.
Was it?
Which is that was a website that Mike from Reptiles Express had for a while because I was doing some live streams for it.
Okay.
And it was like an auction, not really an auction site, but like a classified site. And I guess it just never really took off. But I don't know. But these marketplaces popping up as a direct response to what's been going on as far as morph market goes. But the issue I see there is it's almost like morph market has now been so cemented in terms of the standard for selling platforms that it's like other social media networks popping up trying to compete with Facebook.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you're going to get people that are like, yeah, I'm going there. I'm going to Rumble. It's going to be awesome. Or Vero. You remember Vero? No. And everyone was like, oh, I'm going on Vero. It's like, this is cool, but this is not the same. It's like, it's like trying to tell everyone to leave a party to go to a smaller, more shitty party. And it's like, you're not going to do it. People aren't going to do it. And it's going to be really tough. Like, I don't know exactly what you would have to do to be able to get to the same level that morph market has gotten to, other than like make the interface sexier, make the overall experience sexier. Like that would require an absolute pile of money, I think, to be able to do.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We'll see. I mean, time will tell. I think the solo website thing is going to start coming back. It seems to be kind of the trend. So,
yeah.
Patrick said, are y'all familiar with the auctions they are doing to benefit UARC every week? I am not. Most of the complainers were not the best to buy from. If you're a lazy poster, I probably don't trust you know how to keep your animals. Yeah, and there's something to be said for that too. Like if someone just wants to put up a picture and then put like the bare minimum of information of like, yep, this is a snake, $100. I know what I have.
Yeah.
That I get. It's, for me, again, it's just like, I know I'm going to start posting on Morph Market again. I'm going to start getting a bunch of bullshit messages from people that I'm going to be fairly certain aren't actually going to follow through. Because the last time I actually had stuff on Morph Market it was a couple weeks ago. It wasn't even that long ago. And I had someone message me about a corn snake, and they were like, I want that snake. They asked some questions, I gave them, and I was like, okay, this is the price. This is it with shipping. What's your PayPal? They ghosted me. They read it. It was seen. They just disappeared. And it's like,
man, they don't even have the common courtesy to say, hey man, that's more than I was looking to spend, but thanks for reaching back. Thanks for reaching out. Like, yeah, I've done that. Where I thought an animal was X amount, and they're like, I thought it was going to be $100, and they're like, actually, man, so this animal's $300. Blah, blah, blah. And I say, hey, I really appreciate you, responding to me, but that's more money than I was looking to spend right now. But I appreciate it's a great looking animal. Have a great day. Whatever.
Yeah, and we're in a very odd time in that regard, where it's like if someone messages someone about an animal, they feel compelled or maybe even semi-obligated to buy that animal, and the buyer gets or seller gets upset when they don't. But it's like, I've said it from the beginning, like long before the morph market started happening, all the changes and stuff. It's like, you're gonna have, like, tire kickers are gonna be a thing. Like, you're gonna have
shopping.
It's gonna be, it's called shopping.
Yeah,
it's gonna happen. There's no avoiding it. It's gonna exist no matter how hard you try. Especially if you don't put all the information, like if you don't put a price, you're obviously gonna have a bunch of people asking you how much it is, and then when you tell them, they're just gonna disappear.
And I've said this before. I know you've said this before, but when someone posts, especially on Instagram, because you can't buy on Instagram, you can't advertise on Instagram, serious inquiries only. That makes my skin boil, because not only are you basically saying you can't afford it, peons, you are asking people who are seriously inquiring to reach out to you. And then when you post the price and they say, wow, that's a lot of money, or they don't say anything at all, you can't get upset. Now, at the same time, I think it's very distasteful for someone who inquires about an animal, and let's say in their mind they thought it was going to be $1,000, and they've been out of the game for a while, and the market value of that animal is $3,000. Don't be that guy or gal who says, $3,000? What are you, crazy?
Yeah.
That's so expensive. Like, have some class, have some couth.
Well, that's what I was getting at. Like with the times we're in right now, man, it's so bizarre because there's like this weird thing where like buyers are getting their feelings hurt or sellers are getting their feelings hurt very easily. Buyers seem to have completely lost or never even had any sense of like professionalism and like
it's the
manners.
Manners.
It's just strange because it's like, I don't want to be that guy where if I message someone and I'm interested, like I'm curious about something they're selling, it's like I probably won't buy it because I'm just curious. Someone's selling a Jansenite, what are you asking on it?
Yeah.
I'm not, I'll tell them flat out. It's like, okay, I was just curious. Thanks.
Exactly.
It's nice. Like, I'm just wondering.
Yeah.
Preston Converse. He posted some stuff that he had for sale on Instagram yesterday in a story. He had like some corns and some Bairds and stuff. I was like, what corns you got? Not that I need anymore.
Right.
And then I remembered, because he said locality corns, I remember he had a lot of Devil's Garden stuff that he was doing things with. And so I was like, I told him flat, I was like, I'm just curious. Like, I don't need, it's like, if anything, I want you to buy corns for me because I have so many to get rid of.
Yeah.
And, I think it's just so strange where we're at with that, because the thing that boggles my mind about the buyer part of it too is how similar all the messages are across the board, no matter who they're from. It's almost like the same conversation on repeat. And I don't understand where it started or where it came from, but it is just eerie to me that the same thing happens with complete strangers on a regular basis with multiple sellers selling different things. The questions are the same, and then the ghosting is the same.
Yeah.
The whole thing is just odd, where it's like, at what point did this become when did this become a thing? It's odd, because I feel like it never was a thing like that. Like, there was a point where people would be like, thanks, moving on, or it's weird.
All right, so what I've noticed, and because I work in retail sales as my day job, what I've noticed is, with less and less physical sales being done in our day-to-day lives, we have so much internet access and so much internet shopping. If you don't like what the person says, you can just ghost them. It's the internet.
Yeah.
They don't know who you are. You're never going to see them ever again. And what do you care? You can be rude. It's the internet. While as if that person was walking into a physical brick and mortar store, they may still say, wow, that's really expensive. That's crazy. Your guys are so expensive. They may be rude like that. Or they may just say, oh, wow, that's more money.
Cigar shop all the time.
Yeah, it's more money than I thought it was. They're not just going to literally not respond, turn around and walk out the store. They're going to say something. They're going to interact to a certain extent. You know what I mean? Or then they may say, hey, thanks. That's more money than I thought it was. But, hey, have a nice day. And then they'll walk out of the store. They're not just going to be like, Oh yeah, it's $2,000. Crickets.
Mhm.
Turn around and leave. Like that's just not gonna. That doesn't happen like that in the real world. But on the internet, they can, because what do they care?
Well, Jeff brings up a good point. He said, "I always say it's not your price; it's my budget. You know, the animal is clearly valuable."
Yeah,
And that's a
that's good.
great way to put it.
Yeah.
Again, it's a two-way street, and it's just if you're gonna sell stuff, but you're not gonna put prices, or you're gonna put like the serious inquiries only thing. Again, it just like you, it just makes me giggle because it's like, okay, I'm just not going to inquire.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
A, I mean, it's probably something I have zero desire to keep, but it's also something that I probably can't afford, and so it's like I'm not going to bother. I don't want to be that guy. It's not going to be like, oh, you're selling Llewellyns. How much you selling them for? And then them tell me and be like, oh,
Well,
okay, cool, thanks. I was just wondering. Like,
well, see,
I'm not going to bother.
I've slipped into it on accident where there was, like, let's say a girdle tail species, right? And this is a girdle tail species that in the past I would buy from the importer for, I don't know, $100. And I saw that captive bred babies were going for $250 or $300. So I'm expecting it to be around that. These are, long-term captive adults, whatever. So they put, serious inquiries only. And I'm like, all right, cool. Just because people probably think it's a cheap lizard because nobody knows what it is, super niche. So I inquire, say, hey, I saw you posted, Cordillus, blah, blah, blah. What are they going for? Oh, well, it's $2,200 for 1.2. And I almost said, what the hell were you smoking crack? Like, you know what I mean? But then I take my time and I sit
say
back.
that, I just don't type it.
Yeah, well, exactly. and then I notice and I think to myself, okay, they haven't been in the country in 7-8 years. There's none available. They're not bringing any in. These are captive bred and long-term captives. So yeah, they've now dictated.
Is it that crazy? Yeah.
Is it that crazy? They've now dictated the market price, and that's where I have to suck up my old man attitude and just roll with him and say stuff like what Jeff said. Hey man, that's awesome. That's a great looking pair, but that's more than I was looking to spend right now. I appreciate it anyway. Thank you.
It's almost like, what it reminds me of, and I remember thinking about this not that long ago, was like, it's almost like breaking up with someone.
Yeah.
You don't want to flat out tell them. You want to find some bullshit way to do it where you're like, it's not you, it's me.
Yeah. No, but that's like that's the truth.
People just don't want to let someone down.
Yeah, that's the truth. I'm not going to pay $2,000 for a $300 lizard. I'm not gonna. But if that's my personal opinion, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but like the whole "let me ask my wife" is like, it's
dude,
not you, it's me thing.
Dude, they do that in my in my retail store. It's like, oh, let me go ask the boss. It's like, well,
never see him again. You see him hop in their car, drive away. Like,
yeah. Well, why wouldn't you? All right, let's assume that the guy isn't a whipped little wuss, right? And he's fearful of his wife's wrath. Let's assume that he has a good relationship with his wife and they communicate about their finances and spending money, right? Like we do.
Mm-hmm.
If you're shopping for something, I would like to hope that you've already communicated with your wife if it's that much of an expense. And if it's not, let's say you went in looking for something that was $20 and you saw something that was $500 and you're like, oh shit, I didn't even know that was a thing. I'm going to get that. Instead of saying, oh, I got to go ask the old boss, I got to ask the ball and chain. How about you just be like, oh man, that's great. I'll be back. I see you have it. I'll be back. And then go talk to your significant other. You know what I mean? What really kills me, and this is something you don't see on the internet, I have guys come in my shop and they'll ask me the most obscure thing possible just to see if I have it. And because our store specializes in very niche products, I typically do have it. And they're like, do you have one of these? Like all cocky. And I say, well, actually, yeah, I have it right here. Oh, okay. All right. Well, I got to go. My wife's in the car. And it's like, wait, hold on a second. Two things. One, don't play the game if you don't want to play the game. You know what I mean? And second of all, what is with these people? It's mostly men who go shopping to a typically manly store, right? We'll leave it at that. And this has nothing to do with gender. It could be anything. It could be girl, boy, whatever. There's nothing to do about gender, but they leave their significant other in the car. Why wouldn't you just bring your significant other in the store?
Don't see how much you're about to spend.
Yeah, but they're not buying anything. You see what I'm saying? They're just shopping.
Maybe it's they don't want to see what they're looking at, the realm, like in terms of the realm of what they're wanting to spend. If they bring them in there, they'll see that.
But then
That's the ballpark they're in.
But then why bring them with you to the store?
Know. Maybe they were getting dragged to something else. Who knows?
Yeah, but so that's my thing is, if you want to go shopping and you don't want your significant other to see what you're buying or know what you're buying to a certain extent, why bring them along? Why leave them in the car? Why not just come on your own on a different time? Like that. I never understood that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking too.
Jeff brings up good. Harry said can't relate. Yeah, shut up, Harry. Mr. My wife will be at Daytona picking up some snakes for me, and then like 20 snakes later, he's like, "Hey, look at all the cool stuff I got."
Dude, Harry's wife cleaned house.
She did.
She did. Oh man.
Jeff Frederick said, "Same old questions get a canned response. Thanks for your inquiry. The price of the animal is, X. Shipping would be X. I prefer to ship hold at location. I ship Monday through Wednesday. I thank you in advance." He keeps that in his notes app. That's another good idea.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
He also said, "I feel like some people need to hear that their prices are high or low. I never feel like it's my place to tell them." Agreed. I'm right there with you on that.
And see, I have no problem being like, "Hey man, that's more than I was willing to spend. It's a good looking animal though," and leaving it at that. Yeah. Because if enough people say that, then they get the gist. Wow, I'm too high.
Yeah. Yeah, that was something we were talking about in the Corn Snakes group yesterday. One of the shows that Elizabeth Nash was vending in Texas, over in Chris's neck of the woods. Might have been the Conroe show, but there was someone selling some sort of like one of a kind hognose for like $12,500. And to me, that's just ridiculous because we see the same thing with chondros. And I'm sorry, at the end of the day, it's still a hognose. It's still a chondro.
Well, I understand. I understand the rationale of it, but there's pros and cons to both. Pros being, you may have someone that's like, "I need that, I'll take it. Here's the black Amex." You know what I mean? Like you may have that. Another pro would be, you're the only person at that show with it, and people are going to flock to your booth to see it. Even if they're not buying anything, you're still getting exposure. It's almost like PR, right? Mm-hmm. It's almost like advertising. And then at the same time, your cons are, you have to put a high enough price to limit the market so that you can control the market and then not have it flood out on you where you lose out. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, nothing is a world's first forever.
No, you're right. Nothing is a world's first forever. But if you can maintain if you can control market value on a niche thing for X amount of time to make your money, so that way when it has been oversaturated, you didn't miss out on a golden opportunity. I totally get it.
So like chondros in particular. So like, yes, the blue ones are awesome. Yes, the black ones are awesome. The ones that are blue and black are awesome. They should be more expensive than imported animals because they are captive bred. Yes, they required some more work getting them established. Like there is that aspect of like, they should be worth more because they required some legwork. It's just, to me, when it comes to things like a $12,000 hognose, a $10,000 green tree, like there has to be a line where we go like, okay, this is ridiculous.
Yeah,
like, give me a break. It's still a hognose. It's still a chondro.
Yes, you are correct. However, again, going back to my line of work, there are certain things that inherently cost more. Understandable. There are certain things that don't necessarily cost more, but they have an inherent market value, and there are people willing to pay for it. So if I have what I believe to be the only one available, not the only one in the world, not the only one in collections, not the only one being bred, but the only one available, I'm going to set market value and I'm going to put it up for $12,000. And you better believe that there are plenty of people out there, not as many as we would all like to be,
Obviously, yeah.
But there are plenty of people that are like, oh, 12 grand? Yeah, fuck it. Here's a credit card.
There's going to be more people shopping for
cash.
Toyotas than there are Lamborghinis.
Yes, but at the same time, how do I put this? If no one is selling a Toyota in the entire country and you have one, does that mean you should sell it for the $30,000 that it's worth? No, you put it up for 60.
I think it just depends on the person. Maybe I think maybe it's just because I'm getting older and I just want to keep cool snakes. But
no, and I totally get I totally get what you're saying, man. I'm with you 1,000%. But when someone puts an animal up for an exuberant amount of money because it's the only one on the market, go for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and Elizabeth talked to that person that had that hog, and I think they were like, I don't actually want to get rid of it. It was basically a fuck you price where it's like if someone was willing to pay it, sure.
Exactly.
They were like, I don't want to get rid of it. That was just in the off chance that someone does, like, sure, but I don't want to part with it, you know?
Yeah.
It's crazy, man. Because even if there was like a corn snake, like some sort of one-of-a-kind castagna, that would get me all excited, hot and bothered. If I saw it and it was like $600, I'd be like, fuck you, man. It's a corn snake.
Yes.
Corn snake.
Yes, you're correct. However, I'll use an example here. Okay. In my line of work, my employer has some of his collection on display because it's a really badass collection. And people always ask, hey, how much for, one of the ones on the left? Oh, they're not for sale. Oh, come on, man. Everything's for sale. Now, I know for a fact the one that they're talking about, my employer paid probably 8 to 10 grand for it. He says, oh, yeah, everything's for sale? $50K. And the person goes, oh, man, you're crazy. You're crazy. That same guy came back 3 years later, said, hey, man, you remember you told me $50K for that thing? I'll take it right now. He goes, I'm sorry, man, it's not for sale. Well, you told me it was $50K. He goes, yeah, but now they're all going for $50K. So now you can have it for $100. And you know what? That's a legitimate market value price. That is what it's worth. That was not my employer being a dick. That was not him saying, I don't want to get rid of it. So if you'll pay me enough, I'll get rid of it. No, that was what they're going for. How crazy is that? That's market value. And it sucks for normal people. You know what I mean? But at the same time, one might say it's just X, Y, and Z.
And I get, you could make the argument, because when you're talking about things like that, like original artwork too,
tangible assets,
things that cannot physically be replicated exactly as they were
and or die.
That's going to be open to interpretation. That's going to be subjective.
Right.
But when we're talking about animals where it's like, okay, there's a $10,000 green tree python that's blue, but someone else has some from the same lineage for half that. Like, it can be replicated. It can be done. And it probably will be, because they're going to drop in value, like not blue conjurers in particular, but $12,000 hog noses. Like, it's not going to be $12,000 forever. Like, give it 3 years, you'll get them for $300. Like, it's just that's kind of where the breakdown is for me. It's like, this isn't, and even if it is a one of a kind thing, like the pied crested gecko that Pangea has, that they've tried to reproduce and get more of, and they can't. Like, it is what it is. Like, it's like, I don't know. I just have a hard time wrapping my head around it, because again, it's like, are we keeping snakes, or are we trading Yu-Gi-Oh cards? And yes, maybe I can't afford any of it, but even if I had $12,000, there's so much more I could do with that than buy a hognose.
True, but if you have $12,000 to drop on a hognose, it's a drop in the bucket. It's like you spending $100.
I still don't think I'd buy a single animal for $12K. Like, you imagine like what the damage you could do with $12K.
Yeah, but you're
across the board.
you're missing the point. The people that have that kind of money is no different than you just dropping $50 on a nice dinner. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's just how the other half lives.
Yeah. And that's like, there's less of those people in our community, in our hobby, but there's a lot of people out there like that.
It's because they're all in chondros.
Maybe.
Chondros and emeralds.
Maybe.
15K for a Ed Merino snowflake animal? Sure.
Well, on that note,
different tax brackets than us, Smitty. That's right, Mike.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, to end on an uplifting note, my Sundaval's African garter snake is eating every single thing that I put in front of it.
Hell yeah.
Now I'm worried that it's going to get obese, but I'm not going to care about it until it does. So.
But by the time you know it is, it'll already be too late because it'll be obese.
No, it's going to be a while before it gets obese, but now I just got to find a boyfriend for her because I'm pretty sure I'm the only guy in the country right now with one. And if somebody out there knows someone who has Sundaval's garter snakes in the US that they're looking to part with for a reasonable amount of money, hit me up. So, anything else you want to cover tonight, Bubba?
I don't think so.
All right. It was a good show.
Mm-hmm.
Good talk.
It was. We're doing Corn Stars Thursday, so
sweet.
Looking forward to that. I reckon I'll put some stuff up on the website at some point here soon. Maybe that'll be a weekend project.
For your Saturday afternoon shopping
I'll
pleasure.
let Jake know. Like, we'll set up. I'll put a menu on the THN website that has availability from the gang and have like a page for each of us or something for whoever wants one, and then we can.
Hell yeah, brother! I like it. I like it.
This episode was brought to you by BlackBoxCages.com, Facebook, Instagram, or BlackBoxCages.com. Use that code THN. Theodore, Henry, Ned. Use it. THN. Save some money. Then go over to FulviusApparel.com. Also use Tim, Harry, Nick, THN at checkout. Again, just for THN listeners and viewers like you. And then Puget Sound Pythons, the fine people in the Pacific Northwest. Hunt them down on Morph Market. Hunt them down on Facebook and Instagram at Puget Sound Pythons. And then Cold-Blooded Caffeine. You're tired. I'm tired. Do you know what fixes that? Cold-Blooded Caffeine. Right into your veins. I'm going to start talking to Trey about IV bags just filled with cold brew.
Nice.
We can just mainline it right there.
You're such a classy broad.
You know? I need to get up there, dude. You got to fly river turtle. I got to go see that thing.
Did he really? Good for him.
Did.
That's awesome.
Maybe that'll be a weekend project. Go up there and
that's cool, man.
Yeah. As soon as he posted that, I was just like, dude, I got to come see that thing.
Did he message you about samples?
He has not yet.
Oh, well, they're coming.
Oh, they are.
Yeah, I don't know if he's shipped them yet, but they're coming.
Excellent.
Yes, good.
More on that to come.
Yes, to come.
Using my name in phonetics is the biggest compliment I've received today.
Nice, Harry. Nice.
Go Metallica. All right. Rock and roll. Thank you, everybody. We'll see y'all later.
Bye.